night is the Rangers Journal night.
Good evening and welcome to your Rangers Journal episode on a Tuesday night. With me tonight, I've got Dylan. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Looking forward to breaking this down.
Aye, that's it. It was absolutely grand to have the proper stuff back, so happy days. For you tonight, we've got something a little bit different, so it's no the usual kind of general pod. We're doing a tactical breakdown of the Club Brugge game. In some senses, maybe can't draw too much from it. It is very early days, but end of the day, that's what we're here for. So that's what we're going to do. Just before I kick into it, just a word to the sponsors off to the Match I Go. Good guys, you can find them on Facebook and online. And if you are buying something, if you enter Journal 10 when you're checking out, you will receive a 10% discount. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, it gets in the algorithm. And obviously, if you turn notifications on, you'll be notified when we're going live. So, Dylan, I guess to start with, probably a bit of an easy one here because I think we're all going to have very similar opinion. But I think the thing that stood out most for me when I saw that starting lineup for the Bruges game was the amount of what you'd maybe call out of flavour or out of favour players. Obviously, you had Dow, you had Proper. What was your kind of thoughts when you seen that? Were you a bit surprised or not too bothered at this time?
I probably was, to be fair, Dave. And just for the reason I thought he mixed it up more than I thought he would have. I thought he would have tried to put, since Panathinaikos was like a couple of weeks away, try and get the team that he thinks will be playing, or the majority of them, try and get them playing together against sort of their best team, which probably started the game. I thought he would try and go match for match and then swap it, but he just sort of just went gung-ho and went all over the place with the players and just put out what he wanted, which fair play. I suppose it lets them see who works well together and who doesn't, as opposed to all the people who've been playing the last sort of towards the end of the season playing together, or who's still here. It was surprising, but I think obviously after the second half it was a wee bit more what we may see.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a bit more detail, mate, but I think you bang on. I think for me there was a couple of things. So that initial kind of lineup, there was a smattering of youth, which obviously was good to see. It's great to see Curtis getting a really good run, actually. No just coming off at halftime, so that pleased me. I think it's very easy to say, oh, they're shite, we don't want them, right? See, as fans, we're all at that point where numerous amount of those players, but it's worth remembering it was very limited options, right? So if you look at a striker as an example, right, folk maybe didn't want to see Danilo. Well, who else are you playing?
Exactly.
Like, Iggerman's got a visa issue. Dessers was, I don't know, doing Dessers things. There was just, there was no one else. And I think it was sort of similar in defence as well. Obviously, Aaron's in the door. He got some minutes. We haven't bought in anyone else. So as far as we know, Suter's going through his rehab. Davies, I guess we're all hoping, is mostly done to Birmingham or anywhere else. Couldn't really care as long as he's gone. You know what I mean? I think the options were kind of limited, and I'm guessing the fact that the two midfielders weren't involved probably is just down to kind of how close it was that they actually signed. Do you think it was useful as an exercise, again, given the amount out of contract, or not out of contract, I wish, the amount of players that we're potentially not going to have here?
I think it's a tough question because I'm kind of torn on it. I think it's useful for the fact that you have to get that match sharpness. And what I mean by, and the perfect example is their first goal, where they have a shot and Kelly saves it and we don't react quick enough. That's just because I've not been playing enough games. Yeah. But I think time on and this is going to maybe annoy a lot of people, but I think time on the training pitch is more important now than playing games. They have to get the system right, and they have to get it down to a fine art, and you can't do that when you're trying to play games. So you have to learn it first, then go and implement it in the game. And I know a lot of people maybe don't want to hear that, but I think that would I like more friendlies in before Panathinaikos? I know I'm going around a different sort of question here. Aye, probably. But I also think that the time on the pitch and try to learn that system and how he plays is going to be more beneficial for the start of the season coming. So I was surprised, but was it beneficial? I'm not sure. Just to get the match sharpness, I would say. Do you know what I mean? Get them back playing as a team and stuff like that. But I don't look into it that much, Dave. To be honest with you, I don't take much from it.
Yeah.
Just apart from how we're going to look under the new manager.
I think just since you're completely trashing my agenda here, Dylan, I was wanting to touch on this later on, but we'll just come to it just now. Bit of an unusual pre-season in the sense that we've really got this one, and then Panathinaikos. Now, I know there's a couple of closed-door friendlies arranged for while we're down the road, so, that is going to impact. It does give you some of that kind of game time that you're talking about, but do you think that's intentional, or is it just kind of how it's worked out? Because I guess there's maybe an argument that actually it's more important for that time on the pitch that you were just talking about than it is kind of getting everyone in Ibrox to watch it.
Aye, absolutely. I think these, is it 2 weeks are down there for?
Aye.
I think these 2 weeks will be massive, and you'll probably see that. Obviously, I think the next game's Panathinaikos. We'll see. Obviously, if they play behind closed door friendlies, then that's probably more beneficial than having everybody rock up at Ibrox, because you can get your points across. You can. It's less formal, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
As opposed to going to Ibrox, I think it was about 30,000 there or something. I read 29,000 maybe. So it's difficult. I think, like I said, time on the training pitch is the most important thing now. If you can marry that in with a few games behind closed doors, because I mean there was boozing at half time. It's the first game of a pre-season friendly under a new manager. Do we want to be subjecting our players to that straight away before a European game? No. Do you know what I mean?
You don't get them used to it, mate.
Yeah, you're right, mate, absolutely. But so I think things like that can be left. It's easier to do a closed door friendly and leave out all that rubbish. But I get them the games behind closed doors just to get their game sharpness up. But hopefully, by the time we face Panathinaikos, they're switched on and ready to go and understand everything that the manager's asking them to do.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, clip the date, right? It's not often I say this, but I think Mitch very much has got a point here. There is going to be a lot of mistakes, a lot of players just slightly out of position, but it'll be enough that it makes an impact. And it probably is better in a sense that they just get that all out their system, get training, do it on the training pitch, see the replay, go and do it again and not get hit by it. So I think for me, that probably is a good point, Mitch. Don't get used to me saying that, buddy. So moving on to the formation, Dylan, and I guess if we're guessing, it's probably a good thing because it'll keep the opposition guessing. I think there's a bit of debate. I think it's very much agreed that we kind of finished in a 4-3-3. I guess there's a bit of question. I noticed in the chat whether we maybe started with a 4-2-3-1 in that game. Personally, and this is just my thoughts because, again, it's very hard to find the details anywhere, but personally, I think it was a 4-3-3, and it's just the players were almost kind of used to sitting back in that double pivot system, so it kind of looked a bit like it, but you saw a lot of Martin at the touchline, basically, demanding his players get moved into the positions he wanted. Were you surprised with that, the way that they lined up? Because I'm pretty sure your answer is going to be no, but we talked about this when we did that intro on Martin, and 4-3-3 is very much a him system. So was there any major shocks that you saw there?
No, and I know we did have a discussion about whether it was a 4-2-3-1. For me, it's always a 4-3-3, right? Because you're playing with a left winger and a right winger. You're not playing a left mid and a right mid. So that's. But you're three in the middle. Whether that plays as a 10 or not, I know people like to call it a 4-2-3-1. I know it is a different formation, but for me, those three are midfielders. None of them are a 10. Even if they start to move into that area, then that's like just like a box-to-box 8. So for me, it was like a 4-3-3 they played. And Dave, when we broke it down, remember we had I don't know if the guys in the chat can remember it as well, when we broke Martin down. His two centre mids went really, really high and left a big massive, and then the 6 dropped in to get the ball. Then we could drop in. That was basically what I thought sometimes they were trying to do, because the two of them went, and maybe it was only Barron sitting trying to get on the ball and turn and play it. Did it really work? Probably not, because you're asking. I don't think that's Raskin's game. I particularly like him as a 6. People have different opinions on it. So I think it was like a 4-3-3 with two of the centre mids had the licence to go forward and go and impact the game. And we'll touch on it with your slides that you bring up. That's why there's a reason why you asked him to go and do that, and we'll touch on that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, seems like a good time to introduce it. So this here was kind of the initial lineup, and I've loosely pegged them where I think they were due to play. I think I'm with you. I'm not a fan of Raskin in the 6. He can play it, right? He can absolutely play it.
And the 8, you mean, sorry.
Oh, you said an 8.
Aye, so Barron's playing the 6 now.
Yeah. I was going to say
Raskin in the 8. I prefer him in the 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh well. There we go. Right, you can get. No, I don't know. For me, I always think Raskin can play the 6. I think he dictates the game a bit more when he gets further forward, and I think that showed, especially towards the second half of last season, when you saw, I'm getting a bit more involved in the business end. And I think very much that's what Russell's going to expect from him. So just with this formation, I've got another slide in a minute to kind of show actual pitch positions, but what I noticed was happening was Aarons and Yefte and later Yilmaz were inverting. So they were coming in the pitch, not all the time, right? They did mix it up a bit. They did stay wide at points, but a lot of the time they were coming in to almost make a 3 with Barron and pushing Raskin and Dowell that bit further forward. So it almost became a 4 behind Danilo. Now, for me, that's absolutely ideal, because that's what I think we need domestically. I think, all this nice kind of tapping it about the back's all grand, but ultimately we need to break down a low block, and pushing those midfielders a bit further forward, for me, I think helps to achieve that. What did you make of the kind of mix between the overlapping? Do you think that that's something that will come with time, the more sessions that Martin has with him? Because I don't know, it's maybe more a Yefty thing because he's not so used to inverting, but he almost looked like he was a bit confused at times where he was meant to be. And I think, again, you've seen that on the sideline with Martin kind of yelling at him to try and get him into position.
Yeah, I think, obviously, Yefty's still young. He's still learning his trade as a footballer, never mind, in a new country in Europe with a language barrier. So, but I think, remember when under Gerrard, and this is the easiest one because he's a manager that was there for the longest, he would have Cortez and Curtis, they would be inverted in there, and then they would have his full backs go beyond and almost go and support that way. It's basically the opposite. Martin's wanting Cortez and Curtis to go and stay wide, pushing his two midfielders up, like you said, to create that 4 behind the striker, and then he'll bring the inverted full-backs in. That's just so we don't get run over in the midfield. Now, if you're playing a team like, I don't know, St Johnstone or Kilmarnock or whoever it is, you're then suspect at the back to quick wingers. Because if they go too early and we lose the ball, it's just a straight ball, right? And it's a back 2 you're playing with. So it is a very risk-reward type football. Mm-hmm. But I think, and we'll touch on it, I think the 2 goals that we scored pay off with it. and obviously we will go on to touch it. 2 goals that we scored, and I think it pays off. So I like it. I like the fullbacks coming in. It's not just that. See if you do play against a low block, right? These players who you've got like Tav or Aarons, Jeff or Yilmaz coming into, it'll be like the sort of D of the box almost. If it's a low block, the centre mids will then have to run in behind. They'll have to get on the ball. They can't just stand in that space because they're sort of 3 holding midfielders, which will be your left back, right back, and your 6. They'll be in that area. So it almost has to designed to beat the low block, is what I'm trying to say, by pushing players forward. So I really like it. You've still got your width, you've got a focal point up front, whether he drops deep or not taking on the ball. No, I think it's something that we could be doing with. It's something a bit we've not seen at Rangers at all, really. So, and it's different from just your overlapping fullbacks, which is very easy to mark. That's another thing for teams trying to play against it. It's difficult for who to be picking up.
It's got a very Gerrard 2020 kind of vibe to it, hasn't it? The overlapping fullbacks. So yeah, absolutely good to see something a bit different. And as I said, I think the fact that it pushes the midfielders a bit further forward for me. Obviously, hoping Dowell isn't one of those midfielders, but when you swap him out with, potentially Asgard, Rothwell coming in to these positions, that's a very different dynamic. A lot of debate in the comments. Left back. So I think everyone agrees Yefte is probably more reliable than Yilmaz, right? Given the boys made of glass, that's not a shock to anyone.
Yeah.
Ability-wise, though, is Yilmaz actually better suited to play in that inverted role? Because, to be honest, he certainly looked at it the weekend, and I've seen him play it before, whereas I've not seen Yefte do
it. I think if we think back to, for me, they're a bit different defenders. Yilmaz, for me, is only better at Jefty in 1v1 situations. I think that's the only time he's better at him. I think driving forward with the ball, to him are very similar. I think passing-wise, to him are very similar. Shooting, crossing, very similar. Jefty's a bit taller, he's quicker, better at heading, better in the air. I think Jefty reads the game a wee bit better, maybe. I'm unsure. Maybe sit the fence with that. But if you're asking me, I think I prefer Jefty over Yilmaz, and obviously Yilmaz is only fit for like 10 games a season or something. So,
yeah,
it's difficult that way. But if you remember back to the start of last season, and I've said it on the pod a couple of times and in the chat, Jefty was man of the match like 4 times in a row. For a full month, he sort of got the plaudits because he was getting the ball. He was the only player to really drive out the defence and get the team up the park. If he can do that under Russell Martin in a Russell Martin team with better players around about him, I think he'll flourish under that system. I think it's just learning curve now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, agreed. I just want to come back to this comment real quick. Just sticking with the inverted fullbacks. We've already kind of discussed about. I get him on the pod, Dylan. So we've already discussed about, the fullbacks inverting, pushes the midfield forward. PJ's obviously calling out that the striker was quite isolated, and it was something that I noticed at points, to be fair. Do we think that with a bit of time on the training ground, Martin solves that by having those 2 8s running from deeper, almost Scotty Arfield-like, dare I say
it? I think we talked about your striker being isolated. The manager's been in the door for 2 weeks. The team are just back. They've been on the training pitch for a week. Like, I think we're forgetting a lot of this. We've just went 12 months, maybe 18 months here with Clermont, playing a long ball with striker running behind. And you're asking us now to change that full system in a week. Do you know how hard it is to do that? When you've got players coming back in and out, injuries, you don't know who's going to be there. It is a tough job. I think that I did notice it, that he was isolated a wee bit. I think that's where somebody like Danilo can drop into that sort of false 9 role and link up the play. But I think obviously time will tell, mate, and it'll be a lot much easier once it all starts to click. Do you know what I mean? With a Six getting on the ball, whether it's Rothwell or Raskin, and then playing it forward and then putting it into the striker, linking up your two centre mids that are going supporting. That's totally fine.
Yeah, and I think just to highlight what we were saying, I've just taken a couple of in-game examples. So you can see here, Aaron's is heading towards the middle. Obviously, Winger's further out, holding that width. And then at the bottom, I thought this was quite interesting. It's hard to tell in a still, but that's actually Aaron's there coming from the centre circle, and he's making that kind of drive and run out. So it just shows the variation already. I think the other thing that's worth calling out with Aaron's is he has played in centre mid before, so he should have the ability. You know, it's fine putting a fullback in there. They've got to be able to do something with it when they get there, and hopefully he will bring that to the team. Okay, next up, return of the press. Beautiful to see. So, I mean, this is quite a basic example of it, right? But you did see it all through the game. This isn't so much pressing a player as pressing the space, pressing the ball. You can see the white arrow showing that that's come from the side into the middle. Now, it's not a great pass, but he's straight on it. Straight on it.
See what you're saying there, it's not a great pass. The reason it's not a great pass, look at the players round about the man who passed the ball. That's the reason it's not a great pass. That's the reason they press. It's to either win the ball or make the man make a mistake. You're never always going to win the ball every time, but you're going to make that happen. And I seen Cortez get a wee bit of stick saying that he didn't really do much.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I thought he was all right.
He's switched on here. He's third favourite to that ball for me as well. And he switched on off to go nip in and get it. And this is what I liked about it as well. Maybe I'm looking at it too much. But see when things like this would happen, and it happened in the game as well last season, where we had to get that final pass, had to be just right. Diomande just stepped onto that ball, hit it first time, didn't have to change his stride, didn't have to change his run. So even though it's only a 10-yard pass, how many times did we see that and it never came off for us last season because it was behind the man or it was too far in front of him or Dessers took too many touches, things like that.
that. You'll set Mitch off in the comments, mate.
Yeah, I know. Just set him off. But that's what I mean. So Cortez is third favourite to that ball, gets on it, first throw, head up, and it's a good way to pass into your centre mid, who's that's what you see it working. So I think it's a good visualisation of what Russell Martin wants from his press. They're pressing the ball, they've tried to switch it, we've nicked it, and then it's about quality. Can you go and lay it on a plate for whoever it is that's going to go and score, and just happens to be Diomande, who takes his goal very, very well, I must say. Goalie makes a bit of a... Yeah, but listen, I'll take it all day long. Still one hard, wasn't it? So it's still a hard goal to save.
That's it. And just to pick up on Cortez, I can understand in an attacking sense why people were maybe a wee bit frustrated, because I don't think he offered so much in that sense just yet. And again, the usual caveats, first pre-season game, don't read too much into it. But the thing that interested me was he did a power of work. He was constantly on that press. And I think for me, that is going to appeal to Martin big time. He needs players like he's done in this image, react to the press and can keep it up consistently through a game. And I thought Cortez demonstrated all that. So, yeah, fully accept, in an attacking sense, maybe a bit of work to do. I was seeing folk on Twitter saying he was the worst signing ever. And I'm like, how'd you get to that? We've signed Rob Kiernan, for God's sakes. What? What did you make of him, mate, overall? I mean, I know you said you didn't think he was as bad, but what's your kind of summary of his game?
I thought he could have been braver, taking 1v1s and stuff like that. But again, when you're in the door for a week or two and the manager's playing all these patterns of playing, you're getting told to take 1 or 2 touches. Last thing in your mind is to take players on. Russell Martin probably said that he wants his players to go and be creative, etc., etc. But he also has to get them to learn the system as well. So he's caught in 2 minds as a player who wants to go and take players on. So I don't think he'd done anything wrong. Same with Danilo as well. I don't think either of the two of them, they never lit the place up, but they certainly they weren't bad on the day for a week into pre-season.
Yeah, and I thought just on Danilo, I noticed a couple of wee link-ups that you maybe don't get from Dessers, and Igman's a bit of a maverick, I guess, but certainly he didn't.
Didn't he? He did a wee flick with the back, a wee sort of Cruyff flick to go and set off a pattern of play, and that was him coming detailing the play with the midfielders who then went on beyond him. So again, and I think that's what Danilo gives you. He's good at that, knowing when to come short, knowing when to stay long. I think time will tell, Dave, to be honest with you, with those guys. With a lot of injuries, we just need to give them a chance and hope that they can play sort of every game this season. Do you know what I mean? Or be available for every game.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point about Danilo dropping in to link up that play. That was something that we called out back on that breakdown that we did in Martin, was that it wasn't all about the striker. I mean, obviously you want your striker scoring goals, but there was a real emphasis on those midfielders driving beyond the striker. And again, far from perfect. Got better in the second half, but first half wasn't ideal. But it's the first game of pre-season. And I keep saying that, but it is. There's a hell of a change. I think you summed it up nicely. There's a hell of a change from lumping long balls and hoping someone can get on the end of it to what Martin expects. I think he spoke in his post-match presser, and there was a situation, I think it might have been Dow, and basically as fans kind of watching the game, we would all been sat there going, why don't you just bloody shoot? But he tried to ping it out to the right, and Martin covered this in his post-match, and it's basically, I know this will sort of upset a lot of folk and they'll not want to talk about it, but it was to do with the XG of the situation. Like, basically, I mean, people call it XG and they wave out graphs and all the rest of it, but ultimately it's what we called 20 years ago decision making. Are you in the best place to take that shot on and score? If you're not, feed it to one of your teammates that is in a better place to do it. And I think that's what he tried to do. Now, don't get me wrong, it didn't come off. It was poor pass, way beyond the man, so it didn't come off ultimately. But that's the thinking there. He doesn't just want athletes that can run a boot all day. He wants people that can actually think in that split second and make the right decisions. And that brings me on nicely to my next question, which is, what's the role of Cyril Dessers in this system, assuming that a bid doesn't come in for him? So I guess, firstly, from the kind of pressing and linking sense, do we think Dessers can adapt to play that?
I don't think he can adapt. I think he can still play the way he plays, but I think we would have to try and, instead of trying to find him from defence, from like Tav, try to find him with long balls, we would have to work up the park and then try and slip him through. But I don't. Dessers isn't it? Dessers is going.
You hope. I hope.
He's got to. I think I read or I heard somewhere that the team that are after him were saying that the Rangers wanted a couple more million or something for him. So I reckon he'll go. I reckon he will. But can Dessers play in a Russell Martin team? If you're asking me the question, yes, I think he can. I think he still gets you goals. Don't think he's as effective because he don't play to his strengths. But I think Danilo and Igman play before him because of that. So he would look to go anyway, I'd imagine.
In the interest of fairness, I do have the same question about Hamza Igman. I think a lot of his games off the cuff, kind of natural flair. Now, no doubt the obsessed across the city will be clipping this before the day's out, but It's almost like Ronaldinho, and I'm not saying he's anywhere near as good as that,
Yeah.
but it's just that kind of off-the-cuff flair stuff that he does. For me, does that fit a Martin system? Because there is a lot of organisation behind it, especially with the pressing triggers.
I think I think that for me, I look at Igaman as a raw version of Danilo, but when he gets the ball, he's got more flair. If that makes sense. So Igaman can come and hold off a player and link the ball, pass the ball. If that's what he's told to do, then that's what he can do. Dessers for me struggles to do that. I don't know why, because he's pretty tall, he's quite strong, but he just seems to get bullied on the park. Danilo's better at holding a defender off and laying the ball off than Dessers is. So those two straight away give you that option. But Eggman can also drop deep, go on the ball, turn and drive at a player and take him on, nutmeg him, and then get into the box for the finish. So yes, I think both of them, Danilo and Eggman, both suit. I think Danilo maybe can't turn and drive at a player and take him on. That's more his game of dropping deep, spending it and getting in the box. Eggman offers you both. If I'm honest, I think that both of them will be away. I think Dessers and Eggman will be away. I hope not, but I hope Dessers is. I'm not saying he can lace his boots. I don't mean that. I just mean they're similar in terms of what they can do. Eggman's going to be 10 times the player than Danilo is. But Dessers, for me, he struggles. He really struggles in a ball retention, possession based, attacking football team.
Yeah,
he's more suited to a counter attack. See, if he play with Kamara, what a player he would be.
Probably his level too.
Just shell the ball up and beyond, and he'll run onto it all day long.
Right. Okay. So just looking more generally around the club, then, I guess probably the first news that I'd want to talk about is Clinton Enciala has been told to move on. Basically, I think there's some debate whether it'll be a perm move or a loan. Does that surprise you? Because I'd have thought his range of passing would have been, again, pretty ideal for Martin. Clearly doesn't fancy him if he's just come in and told him to go. So are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I thought that would have been the last player that would be told to go, to be honest with you, Dave. I think that it's a strange one because I don't think he's a good trainer. And you'll hear these pros say it all the time. People are really good in training, then they get to a park and they get into their shell. I think he's the opposite. I don't think he's a good trainer, but I think when you put him into a game, he seems to do all right from what I've saw. Defensive wise, he's a bit raw, a bit all over the place. That can be coached. Okay, mate. I don't know what you're watching, but not for me. I think that what was I saying there? Enciala, yeah. I think that his range of passing, his pace, his left-footed centre-half, which we're not going to have, apparently. I don't think De Gea is. I don't think Fernandez is. Shooter's not, unless he keeps Ben Davies, which I hope not. So you're then looking at it and saying, well, who's going to play that, or who's going to be a left-footed centre-half? For me, I think he's a no bad backup option to come and bring on, but obviously I thought proper King and stuff would have been first to go, like John says here. I thought Enciala looks a level above them, but maybe he just wants them to go out and develop, and next year they can then have a look at him, and once he's played maybe 30 or 40 games, you know what I mean? So I thought I would have kept him, but so I was surprised, mate, to be honest with you, once I seen that he said he to go and play football.
Yeah, I think another one that surprised me is obviously they've brought in Fernandez, who I guess arguably is his squad replacement. You know, quite young, quite raw, sort of prospect almost. He looked a bit ropey as well. And again, I'm not gonna. Don't get me wrong. This isn't me sitting here saying that he's awful, right? But he didn't look very composed. A bit similar to Enciala, right? Haven't seen the passing range from him. Now, he could come good and prove us totally wrong, but it just seems a strange one that we go out, we pay a fee for Fernandez to come in when we've already got that kind of raw prospect here at the club. So definitely a strange one for me. I think one of the other big winners from the game, I mean, obviously, what we've talked about Curtis, it was covered off last night. And see, to be honest, fair play, the lad had a cracking game. Someone else that I thought did do very well and probably quite surprised me, and this isn't me saying redemption arc before you start, is Bayrami. I thought he had a very good game. He looked a bit quicker. Don't know how that's possible, how you pick up speed in the close season, but he did. Potentially a wee bit leaner. And to be honest, he looked like he gave a shit, which half the time last season, I'm not convinced he did. It's not to say he didn't care, but his body language certainly suggested last season that he didn't. Now, that could be because he's got Clement barking instructions at him, right? We get it. But is this make or break for him? And do you think he could actually forge a place for him? Or do you think it's too late now?
It's a tricky one again, Dave. I think... Did he look... Did he look that good because everyone else was pretty poor?
Maybe.
Listen, don't stick to him. I thought he did. I thought he looked good. Listen, his assist was brilliant. It's something that I didn't really think he had his locker. I thought he was quite soft that way, but he holds off the player.
Yeah.
Sort of gets free. And again, it's another good layoff pass where Curtis just has to step onto it. When Bayrami came in, I wanted to root for him because I think he's a clever player. We spoke about it before. Same with Hadji. You touched on it earlier. If you're in a good position to go and the best position to shoot, that's what you go and do. I think a lot of players don't think about the game. I think players like Bayrami, Hadji tend to do think about it in real time. I think Russell Martin's style of play would suit him, to be honest with you, mate. I think it would. If early indications are to go by, then it looks like he's taking it on board and he's really enjoying it. So, I mean, we did pay a lot of money for him. If we could recoup it and go for somebody else, would you take a chance? I probably would. But again, let's not go over the top. It's the first game of pre-season.
Yeah, just to be clear, Blue, we're not saying first team starters. We're saying squad fillers, especially Curtis, given that he fills that European quota as well. So I think there's absolutely a role for them kind of coming on, 20 minutes left, game's 3-0 up. There's absolutely a place for Curtis to come on, get some minutes, develop himself. Not suggesting for a second that we abandon our winger search and just play him from the off foot. Just on that then, so obviously we're talking about a winger search. I think all the work that's been done so far, it's all been about the kind of back that, we've got a load of centre backs. We've got Max Aarons in. Then we've got through the midfields, you've got that almost spine kind of building, if you will. But then what else do we need, mate?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. You've got the keys to the Rangers transfer budget. What else are you going out and signing?
You need 2 or 3 wingers. And then if Dessler's in Egerman go, you need 2 strikers.
Just on that, by the way, by all accounts, I'm seeing in the background we've put in a bid. Remember that Samuel Edozie that we were linked with? Apparently we've put a bid in for him. First bid knocked back, but I'd assume we'd go back if we wanted.
Seen that. I also like the boy that's from Tel Aviv. The Brazilian.
Is it?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, his numbers look really, really good. And if we could get him, that would be a massive coup.
Yeah, and he can bring his mate Tersman with him as well.
Yeah. I seen the chat as well there. Hadji's agent, must be Comfy's agent, offering a cut price deal. If you're asking me, we're taking back on a cut price deal, I probably would, but I wouldn't be clamouring for it. It would be a last sort of option if we sort of if all else failed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my wife says that too, John. No worries, mate. No worries. Yeah, for me, Haji's a hard no. He was offered terms to stay. He wanted to go, right? I'm not being funny. It's
Yeah.
pretty damn clear that he's probably not had the offers that he thought he was going to get, or is that his agents told him he was going to get potentially.
Yeah, probably.
And now they kind of maybe we had a bit of a good thing here, and they're coming back to us. See, for me, I think one of the things that Martin said that really kind of stood out to me, and I hope we do stick to it, is we don't want players that don't want to be here. You know,
No,
unless you're heart set on playing here, on you go. No harm to them. You know, fair play.
Yeah.
It's a short career. You need to make your money where you can, and I understand. Whilst playing in Scotland, you know, a lot of teams can offer. But if you don't want to be here, then nah. You know, just leave them to it. Just finally, before we finish up, John's given us our last talking point after telling me how slow I am. Are we worried that we're not linked to any keepers? Again, this is something that we called out on that Russell Martin breakdown, and we pretty much said that neither Butland or Kelly is anywhere near the kind of keeper that Martin would want.
It's a strange one. We've not been linked with any, because I think he's had probably enough time now to see how let's say incapable they are with their feet. I don't think I'm not being kind there. I think I'm just being honest. So I don't know. I think that the fact we're not linked with any strikers, any goalkeepers is pretty poor. But let's trust the manager, because if he thinks that they can go and play the system, I hope doesn't get to like October and then he realises he can't do it. And then we're stuck until January to find a new one and pay over the odds. So hopefully, if he thinks that they're capable, then they are, mate.
So I guess two things. Firstly, if that's Doug sticking up for bloody Dessers, he's getting booted from the chat, right? Nah, not really, but tempting. Nah, Doug's our graphics man. I'll never boot him from the chat. I'll just mute him. Don't worry, folks. Secondly, and again, I've been saying all kind of evening that, you know, we can't draw too much into the Bruges game, and I do maintain that. But for me, both of them showed nothing different to last season. I don't think either of them looked particularly comfortable when they did receive the ball and there was a bit of pressure. And honestly, I think John's right. I'll let you off then, Doug. Hadji, yeah, okay, fine. We'll take that. That's an opinion. Desser's not allowed. No, I don't think either of them looked particularly comfortable. And I think what you said resonates. You know, we cannot afford for something as vital to Martin's system as that to get to the end of the window thinking I will make do, and then someone has an epiphany that actually they're both terrible with their feet and we should have signed a goalkeeper. It's literally one of the most crucial roles to how he plays. I mean, obviously every role's important, you know, your striker bags the goals, etc. But everything starts at the back. We don't have that lump it forward kind of manager anymore. So, you know, without a good goalkeeper, that does concern me, if I'm being honest. Right, Doug, settle. Enough. Jesus.
Dave, let me ask you, what did you make of the goals that we conceded?
See, I was trying to keep this positive, mate. See, to be honest, it had a real flavour of last season, and you know, I don't think that's a surprise when you look at the lineup that started that game. But it was just like nothing had changed. You know, we were back last season where we give up the 2 goals in 10, 20 minutes so that we can then chase the game for the rest of it. It was a wee bit worrying, but as I said, I keep saying to myself, there's a hell of a lot of information he needs to get over these players in a very, very short space of time. I don't think by the Panathinaikos game we're going to be there, if I'm being totally honest. I think we'll be the damn sight better than what we saw against Bruges, and I think we'll be a better team. But it's going to take time for this to bed in. Clement's system majoritively was about standing where he tells you and then hoping that Dessers can hit that long ball and score, as you said, a lot of the time. Martin almost needs intelligent players, if that makes sense. He doesn't just need robots that can perform a system. He needs them to be making those split-second decisions, and that will take time to bed in. And if fans think that we're going to, start this season, win our first 5-10 games, sorry, I think you're going to be disappointed. I think there is going to be a few slip-ups. The real key for me is that we see that progression. So when we play Panathinaikos, we see a better team than we saw. We might not beat Panathinaikos. To be blunt, we should, right? But given it's come so early, potentially not.
Yeah.
But we have to see an improvement on what we saw against Brugge. And then the same when the league starts, we need to see that continued improvement. And I think if the fans see that, they will give them a bit of time, right? If we just keep seeing the same old jokers turn up and produce the same old turgid shite that we watched last season, then I think those boos that he saw at halftime will be the least of his worries, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think we should beat Panathinaikos. See if Clement was still in charge, I think we'd beat Panathinaikos. And I don't mean that.
I get it.
The same players that have been playing the same system. I think it's just the only way I can see is really getting beat is just because we don't understand how he's trying to play yet. It's not bedded in enough yet. That's my sort of fear of it. I think the goals we conceded. Who was playing at right back? Right at
Sir Aaron's.
So the ball gets played in behind him twice for the 2 goals.
Yep.
Runner in beyond. The first goal's not unlucky. Kelly's a great save, and we just don't react to it. It falls to a guy in the box. Second goal's a screamer, absolute screamer. You can't really do anything about that. Do you know what I mean? I think so. Midfielders get sucked too deep there instead of standing at the edge of the box taking their man. But again, if that's what we're worrying about, I think it's not a lot to be worrying about.
Yeah, so just to clear this up, Chris Check, I'm not being harsh on Kelly for either goal. When I was saying about the goalkeepers not being able to perform, I'm speaking specifically about their ability with their ball at their feet. I actually think, as Dylan just said, Kelly made a cracking save for the first one. The blame wouldn't be specifically on the keeper for me so much as the defenders and the midfielders around him that weren't reacting. That shot was an amazing goal, right? There's no taking away from that for the second. Once it came to him in that space, there wasn't any stopping it. My problem is it should never have got to that stage so that he had the ability to take that shot. Don't know if you want to add anything onto that, mate.
No, I think that again, when you watch the highlights that Rangers post on Twitter, after that sort of flurry, it's all Rangers.
Yep.
The shot that Raskin has, the only difference is their goal doesn't palm out into the middle of the box. It's a different type of save, if you know what I mean. It's their post, he puts it around the post. But if he puts that in the middle, somebody taps in for us as well. Yep. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of chances that I thought that we could have done better with. Bajrami breaks through and the defender tries to turn and then the defender slides in, kind of catches him and wins the ball. So I think on the whole, I know performance-wise, the highlights don't show a full game, but performance-wise, look at the chances sort of created, clear-cut chances. I think we were the majority of them, probably. I mean, you look at their goals he scored, one of them was an absolute screamer. Yeah, positionally, we could do a bit better with it, but I'm not too worried. Like, we get cut wide open, if that makes sense. We get caught at the park, and they were through one for the halfway line. We've seen under Clement a few times. Yep. So, yeah, I'm not that worried about it, mate, to be honest with you. We'll see how this week goes, and then into the Panathinaikos.
That's it. And looking forward to a wee cheeky breakdown for the Panathinaikos game.
Well, that's that, aye.
Okay, well, thanks very much for joining me tonight, Dylan, and thanks everyone that's tuned in to listen. If you have liked what you've heard, then please do like and subscribe. You know what? Even if you haven't, feel free to do the same. We don't mind. Turn the notifications on and you will be advised every time we're going live. For now, Dylan, thanks again.
Cheers, boys.
And thanks for watching, folks. Remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night.